Anyway, I hope all of you enjoyed this conversation. If you are one of the rare few in this community who do not follow Donny on Instagram, it's American Civil War _IG. Hey, wait a second. I don't even think I said it in the beginning, did I?
No, you didn't.
Well, why didn't you say it?
I don't know.
Wait, so all these people I'm talking about, you probably follow him, and if you don't, you should, but you probably do, and he's got 30 trillion. And here's Donny Copper. Everybody's like, who?
Who? Who the hell is this guy?
What an idiot I am. Oh, my God. Now I'm going to have to put this as a cold open because I didn't say it in the beginning. What a jerk.
Yeah. It happens.
I just assume because I know you that everybody else knows you. Okay. Well, anyway, it's American Civil War _IG. Like I said, IG for Instagram, on Instagram.
You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Hello, patrons. How are you today? I don't know why I always start that way because you can't answer me back, which is ridiculous of me. But, I feel like I'm talking to you instead of just speaking over you, and you have to listen. So how are you doing? I hope you're doing okay. Today we're talking to someone who I'm sure all of you follow on Instagram. If you don't, you should. He has, I think, 30 trillion followers. And he is, you've seen his face. He's revealed his faccia brutta to you, his brutal face, his horrible, horrible face. He's revealed to you, but now you're going to hear his voice, and you're going to hear what he's like. He's someone who I consider to be a friend, although I think both of us regret that decision. And you'll be seeing more of him once the Today Show comes out, because he's on that, rather prominently featured. But right now we're going to get to know the one and only Donny Copper. Hey, Donny.
Hey, Matt.
How'd you like that intro?
That was wonderful. That was stunning. I couldn't have been any better.
Yeah, I thought you would like that. You don't really have 30 trillion. How many followers do you have on Instagram, Don?
Well, let's see. The last time I checked, it was just over 33,200.
Wow. That is something. That's yeah.
I'm proud of it. I am. I'd be lying if I said that I didn't care about the fact that I had that many followers.
Well, you should be proud of it. And why would you have gone on there if you didn't want to get followers?
Well, to be honest with you, I never imagined that it would get to that point because I didn't start it with the intention of growing it into a huge page. I didn't think there was that many people that really cared about the Civil War, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah. No, I started the page with the intention of, trying to find a few like-minded people to talk about the Civil War with. Yeah. And it just one day, all of a sudden, I started gaining a whole bunch of followers, and it was surprising, but it was a pleasant surprise.
When did you start doing that page?
It's been 3 years now. I started it in September of 2017.
And how quickly after you started it did it start to get into the big numbers?
Well, it took a little while. The first couple of months went by, and I think I had a couple hundred followers. But it was one post in particular that made it take off. And I remember I actually, when I noticed the number of followers exploding all of a sudden, I actually got nervous.
Really?
I got worried I got worried that something happened and that, it was like a bunch of bots or something following me, but it was all people who started interacting. So it was pretty good.
And, so yeah, right. So it's not about followers only. It's about interaction as well. That's the key.
Yeah, absolutely. And that has happened as well. That's been the best part of this whole thing is meeting new people and getting to talk with people that have the same interests. And to be honest, I mean, I've learned so much. I try to teach people things, but it's all most of it is things that I'm learning. Some of it is knowledge that I've gathered over the years from reading books and such. But every time I do a post, I do as much research on it as I can, and I end up learning so much, and then I just share it with everybody else.
You say you try to teach people. Do you have a license?
I do not.
Donny, come on. You can't teach if you don't have a license. Do you have a PhD?
No, not in this country anyway.
Oh, geez. You've got a foreign, probably internet-bought PhD, and you're teaching about the American Civil War.
Yeah.
Oh, Donny. My God. Well, whatever. All joking aside, you do phenomenal work with your posts. And frankly, how do you have the patience to look, you do a post, you whatever, like you decide, okay, I'm going to do a post, today on the first day at Gettysburg because it's July 1st. So that makes sense, So you do that.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you go and find your sources? And then after you get your sources, what do you do? You put it in your own words, and then what?
I usually do a rough draft first. I get started either on the computer or in the notes on my phone, and I just start doing a rough draft, and then I'll go back through and I'll read it back to myself and see how it sounds in my head, and change a few things here and there. But for the most part, whatever I start out searching for, it doesn't always end up that way. I'll start out researching, like you said. I'll go. I have certain internet resources that I use that tell me specific things that happen on that day, and sometimes that's where I start. If I don't have anything in mind that I want to try, I'll look and see if there's an anniversary that's on that day, and I'll start researching that, and I'll look for something interesting all across the internet. Like I'll start with a simple search, like a Google search or whatever, and see what websites I can come up with that have different information. A lot of it comes from the Library of Congress as far as like pictures and stuff go. But then I'll pull information from all over the internet. Really, I don't have like a specific one that I go to all the time. I just look for what's best out there, and then sometimes that'll lead me to something else. Like, I'll start out researching one subject, and there'll be like a little blurb in there about something that I've never heard about. So then I'll start researching that, and it'll lead me down this rabbit hole. And the next thing you know, my post ends up being about something that I didn't even intend it to be about in the beginning. Right.
That's always fun that way, I think.
It is. It absolutely is. And some of the best stories that I've come up with have happened that way.
Yeah. You mean your more popular posts?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sometimes accidents are the mother of invention.
Yeah.
You go looking for one thing, and something better comes along, and you wouldn't get that if you hadn't gone looking for the first thing.
Right. Exactly.
I think a lot of people think that a lot of and in a sense, this is a creative venture on your part. So a lot of creative things, are just like some kind of divine intervention that, just God puts an idea in your head and it comes right out and it comes out perfectly. But it's not like you're seeing, when you see something or hear something or read something or whatever, that's after, hours and hours or months and months of work. And that's what somebody puts out there. And when you see something great, you go, oh man, he's such a genius. Where did he come up with that? And then probably most of the times you stumbled on it.
Exactly. And then, you never know where it's going to lead.
Right.
There are some days when I wake up with no ideas in my head about what I'm going to research at all. And, I just I just start looking, and to see what I come across. There's so much out there to discover, between and there are books that I use too. I mean, occasionally I'll be reading a book and, I'll find something in there that I never heard before. And there's so many of those stories in the Civil War.
Yeah.
That people don't realize. A long time ago, I had somebody ask me, like, how do you plan on doing a story every single day about a war that only lasted from April 61 to April 65? I said, you could do this all your life and never even touch 10% of it.
It was quite a big war.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know most of the focus has always been on, the Army of the Potomac and the Army of Northern Virginia and the war in the East. But, you start spreading out to different areas and there's just so much stuff out there. And one of the best things that I've done, or one of the things that has become the most popular, is the little stories. Each individual soldier has their own, unique story. And there's so many cool things that can lead you into as well.
Well, that's the thing. It's like what, almost 3 million Americans fought in the Civil War or something like that?
Yeah.
So almost 3 million Americans fight in the Civil War. Let's say they didn't all fight it for 4 years, but for however long they were there, every day they were fighting this war, even though there weren't battles for them every day. They were part of the war and there was stuff going on and there were stories to tell. And,
and there's battles in the East, there's battles down South, there's battles in the Western Theater and the Trans-Mississippi Theater. And, even in the far West, you go all the way out to, New Mexico, Glorieta Pass and Valverde and places like that. They've got phenomenal stories that most people have never even heard before.
And the Far East.
Yeah.
The Japanese Navy.
Hey, I told you one of my favorite stories during the Civil War was about the Russian Navy.
Yes.
And, a lot of people don't even know.
Tell it.
About the Russian Navy being in America during the Civil War,
Tell the story.
Well, one of the posts that I did, it's been a while, and I have to go back through and look at my notes again, but there were several ships from the Russian Navy that docked in America during the war. And, I think one of their big fears at the time was that Europe, they still weren't sure if, England and France were going to come in on the side of the South, but, a lot of people assumed that was going to be the case, that, England and France would eventually, have a greater presence in the war for the South, and Russia wanted to get in on the other side. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So that's what they did. And they came and docked a bunch of ships in America. And, a lot of the sailors from the U.S. Navy became friends with these Russian guys. And there's so many great stories to be told between, their interactions and such. They were in San Francisco and they were in New York Harbor, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. It was a big deal, not just here. And who was I talking to the other day? We did an interview with Daryl Rivers. You know him, Lord Rivers on Instagram.
Yes.
He was in town, so he stopped by. Stopped by the studio. Had a little talk with us, and we were talking about how the world was watching to see how this would all play out, and
everyone was.
They had different interests. Some wanted us to fall. Some wanted us to not fall. It's an interesting time, and even to this day, I mean, through being here, I meet a lot of people from England, Australia, Germany, the Netherlands, and Israel. And I'm like, what is because they say, like, I've always wanted to come here. I've always wanted to see this place. And I go, why? Like, what? I mean, I understand. I get it. I know why. Yeah. But I want to know, like, what is your interest in our Civil War? And their answers vary. The scariest one to me was from actually two separate people on separate dates. I think it was actually separate years. But they were within the last 2 years. From England, I asked them this question, and they both said, because from our point of view, you're heading for another one, and it scares the S out of us.
Yeah.
And I said, I thought I was the only one that thought that.
Oh,
No.
There's a lot of people that think that now.
This episode is now available over at patreon.com/addressinggettysburg. Please help support the show and become a patron today.